My name is Malik Lovette, and I'm originally from San Bernardino, California, but I'm an artist and educator based out of Eugene, Oregon. The title of the exhibition or installation is Unchained, and the medium is mixed media, but based on, I guess you could consider it sports banners. And the exhibition itself is more of a self-reflection on my life for the last 5 years, and more so my entire life, and the parallelism between slavery and sports ultimately. But it kind of is a general reflection of my life and my and the things that I've gone through personally, and just kind of how I've ultimately want to express the internal versus external perspective on the world and the athlete. Willis Thomas is, I'd say, the biggest inspiration of mine, and he was one of the first artists I was introduced to in my undergraduate, and he plays a big part into how I see art, and it's kind of given me a foundation and helped me on just developing artwork in general, especially when relating to sports and the African American body. So my personal experience has informed my work. So when I first entered college in my undergraduate, I was luckily and very fortunate to have received an athletic scholarship. But however, I was definitely introduced to the business side of it right away. So it immediately allowed me to start to reflect on who and what I was going to be outside of my jersey number. So in entering the world of art and studying that, a lot of people questioned and had a lot of uncertainty and doubt in me just following this career path in general. So I had made a promise to myself that I would have my peers, my colleagues, family, friends, etc., respect me for my artistic integrity rather than my jersey number. And I just wanted to kind of show people, like I mentioned in the first question, the internal versus external perspective of just sports itself, and being able to ultimately give myself a voice, and the experience itself of just growing up as an athlete and just believing that was my only outlet to success, is what you can say. And everyone defines their own definition of success, but that it's kind of how it's put into our world, that only African Americans or Black young boys or youth can only succeed if they play sports, or that's ultimately the main thing that is given to us as an outlet. So I just kind of saw that as a pathway to truly reach my personal goals, and then give myself a voice and show people that I was more than just an athlete. It definitely is indicative and like other works. So this is more an extension of my senior thesis project, which was titled Masked Grave. And I did a collaboration with one of my best friends back home, Jared Ellis, that is the founder of Hoop Dream Studios. So he commissioned me to create this luxurious basketball hoop, but it was more so a representation, like I said, of parallel between slavery and sports itself. And especially with me being a student athlete, but I hit that a lot, and then I didn't really show or tell people about that. So I utilized this opportunity for the Spring Storm, which is an exhibition for all the seniors at the U of O in the College of Design program. So I utilized this as a way to show people that yes, I'm an athlete, but fine art is really my dream and my ultimate goal, and utilizing just the arts itself to express myself. So as mentioned, it's really just an extension of this and further research, and me really getting into depth of how can I really keep the conversation going, and ultimately showing people that this has always been a dream of mine, especially since I took my first step on the University of Oregon's campus. What inspired me to apply to this Black Lives Matter artist grant was actually introduced to me by my mentor, Lyllye Smith, and aka my second mother. So after reading the mission and theme of the project itself, I just knew it would be a perfect fit, and it would ultimately allow a full circle dream to come true by being able to showcase an installation art project at the Jordan Schnitzer Museum of Art. So that was one of the main things behind it, but also just kind of being a representation ultimately for people of color, and it just giving us an opportunity. And just in the world that we live in, we honestly don't get too many opportunities yet, and our voices are very limited, or we're put into a box ultimately on what we can and cannot do. So I kind of saw this as just breaking a barrier and building a bridge for those that don't have a voice and those that are of color and seeking opportunities like this. And I'm hoping that this can carry over and ultimately become a foundation and can become an annual thing, or even something that is presented more often to artists that are of color or specifically African American. Black Lives Matter, the movement itself and just the statement means to me just giving us essentially a voice, and as reiterated, just breaking barriers and building a bridge for ourselves to showcase what we're actually capable of. And ultimately, it puts us in this dilemma of whether we're going to live in faith or fear, and you have the daily decision to choose which one you're going to choose. So I think if we can utilize this whole statement or movement to come together as a collective or as a group, we can definitely carry faith in our everyday choices and everyday mindset, and just being able to come together as one and utilizing that strength to leverage some form of, I guess you could say, power within our own community, and starting to come together as one to help each other out, and just give each other the ability to lean on each other, and instead of always being dictated by this division and individualism that is placed upon us without us even realizing it. It's all ultimately a subconscious act. So I think this is our way of being conscious and really showcasing what we're actually capable of, and just like I said, just living in faith. And it's kind of us against the world ultimately, but not really. But I guess that's a way that you could put it, because that's ultimately how we have felt for the last, centuries, decades. We're very aware of what this movement itself can do for us as a culture, but it ultimately is hijacked in different ways, politically, socially. So it's kind of our responsibility to not let that happen and continue to not fall into what I would consider the traps and the stuff that keeps us distracted on what really matters. And what really matters is us coming together as one and utilizing this movement to kind of represent those that have come before us, so then we can serve those that come after us. I've had smaller installations at galleries or even gallery spaces throughout UO, but in regards of an actual art exhibition at an art museum, yes, this is my first one. What I want the audience to take from my work is to just keep the conversation going in regards of athletes and just general life itself, and getting athletes to ultimately reflect on what they want or what they're going to be outside of their jersey number. And then in regards of just, a viewer or a critic and just an individual itself, I want them to gain internal versus external perspective, and just allowing them to kind of see both ends of it, and not just kind of being blinded by what they see through the internet, through commercial, through the neoliberalism of higher education and professional sports itself. So I want them to kind of see this as a way to kind of look at sports differently ultimately, and honestly looking at the individual and the athlete differently. And more so, like I said, it's a personal reflection on my life, and then I want them to kind of see that the sky is the limit ultimately, and you can reach your goals as long as you are able to put the work in every day and be able to build and articulate your vision. And for me, this is, as you'll see in the artwork and in the artist statement, it's me breaking outside the box that I've always been put in, and believing that athletics was going to be my only way to success. And then going through different trials and tribulations throughout my athletic career, that I was still able to not let that dictate my future. And I always leveraged and kind of fell back on what I knew most and what my intuition always told me, which was self-expression and utilizing arts to express that. So this is kind of like my personal championship in life itself. But just being able to ultimately show that to the world, and being like, I've been doubted. People have put their own fears and limitations on me, and saying that art itself was never going to work for me, and I should just stick to sports, and this was your best bet, and people only recognized me when I did have a jersey number on. But then this is going to be my way of kind of stamping my presence at the U of O and just in life itself, that if you just really bet on yourself and exclude all the negativity and just kind of put yourself in a position to keep a tunnel vision And like I said, just work every day and just be thankful and just put God first. The first time that I got introduced and fell in love with art is when my mother and my father split up, and I was originally living in Oklahoma City, where I was born as well. And we moved. Me and my mother literally packed up her. I forget the exact car, but it was a two-door car, a large, one of the biggest U-Hauls, and my mom was able to latch it to her car, and we drove all the way to Oklahoma to California to move with my grandmother and my two uncles. And driving through Los Angeles, this was the first time I had ever seen graffiti, and just seeing the different types of typography and colors, just seeing it being expressed throughout the city. I fell in love with it immediately. So then as a young kid, I would always get in trouble from my grandmother and my mother about drawing on everything. I was drawing on couches. I would even lift up the sheets from my mattress and draw on that if I had ran out of paper or ran out of any drawing utensils or platform that allowed me to draw. So anything I could get my hands on, it's kind of like a form of Basquiat. And I would even take items from the local apartment dumpsters and around the city and draw on these things. And then I was also into the world of skating. So me and my buddies would definitely go throughout town, and I hope this doesn't get me in trouble, but we would definitely go around town and graffiti. And it was our way of kind of expressing ourselves, because we all played sports, but we all wanted to kind of understand, or at least gain some recognition outside of that, and being part of this world in San Bernardino of skating and graffiti and just hanging out from daylight to dawn. It was just like, that was kind of our lifestyle. I grew up with graffiti as my background, so I was looking up to Brian. I want to say his last name is pronounced. It's Brian Donnelly, I believe it's pronounced, and he goes by Cause, and he was a big time graffiti artist. So that was someone that I followed a lot as a kid, and I honestly looked up to local graffiti artists in my city. And over time, as I started to really get immersed into the art world, high school, more so my junior and senior year, my art teacher, Miss Masmiano, she introduced me to Banksy, and I watched the first art movie ever in my life called Exit Through the Gift Shop, and that was kind of when I fell in love with art, and I never looked back. First off, I want to thank the Jordan Schnitzer Museum Foundation and those that have supported and contributed this project. I'm very thankful for this opportunity, and I'm still trying to wrap my brain on how I even got the grant. Not to say that I didn't deserve it or my project wasn't worthy of it. It's just one of those things where I do have a hard time accepting things and even taking compliments, etc. But those are personal issues. But like I just like I said, I'm just super thankful for the opportunity, and I just hope that this really steps a foundation of how we're going to move forward as a state, as a country, especially as a state, because I've done a lot of research and just the historical context behind the state of Black exclusion laws in the late 1800s, early 1900s. People have always questioned, like, why I stay in Oregon, or why do I want to work for a predominantly white institution? Because it's ultimately breaking a barrier that is kind of overlooked, and a lot of people don't realize that people of color weren't even allowed to be here at one point. So to be able to be here and showcase this project and be able to have others that look just like me or that are of color and getting the same opportunities, there's like, what more could you ask for, you know? So just being able to have these opportunities and these experiences and meeting all these great people and being immersed in the community more and more, that's what it's all about. And then being able to have these conversations and seeing work like this, it allows us to kind of understand what we want to do and how we want to move forward collectively. So that's kind of my gist in general, and I just hope that everyone stays safe and healthy. And July 8th, make sure you're there, and we look forward to meeting those that come out, and it'll be up for some months, so don't feel rushed. But yeah, so I mean, like I said, I'm just super thankful. I thank God, and I can't wait to showcase this to my mother. I sent her a text a few weeks ago saying this. I don't know how she'll feel about it, but for me personally, I was like, this is a moment for me that is very similar to when I got my athletic scholarship and I told my mom I was going to college. So I would hope that this kind of gives her the same feeling. But either way, I'm just, like I said, I'm just thankful. So. Thank you.